And this is where that dun 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 moment was. Of like, whoa, why did she get assassinated? Side note, I'm really feeling this grasshopper.
This grasshopper. Whoa!
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary.
We're the podcast that recaps all episodes of The Big Bang Theory, no spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
make yourself a grasshopper, and enjoy the ride.
Hello there, Ryan.
Hey, Rob, what's up?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
Fantastic, because we just watched The Grasshopper Effect.
Oh, yeah.
And this is one that we were waiting for. We've been talking about this one for a while because we planned on making grasshoppers as we recorded.
And I knew nothing about this episode. It's a spoiler-free watch for me because I've never seen Big Bang Theory before, but I was told that there was an episode with grasshopper drinks and to expect to be taste testing my own grasshopper. And
yes.
I was excited for it.
Ryan found a couple recipes, so we troubleshooted them offline, but we kind of decided which one we're going to do. So we're going to hold that off until later on in the episode. But just know that we're going to be making it as we record, and I'm actually going to film a video, too, to post on our Instagram, which is a perfect segue to that we have an Instagram. Woo-hoo! At Theoretical Nonsense Pod, and we have more followers now than what I ever had on Twitter, so I think I made the right choice switching out of Twitter and into the Instagram.
Twitter is dead.
Yeah, I just didn't get it. Like, I was on there for a while looking at other people's accounts and trying to play around with it on my own end, and it's like, you know what? I like Instagram so much better, and with my other accounts, I have my dog's account, I have my other account and my personal account, so it's like I'm just always on Instagram, so feel free to DM us or anything like that, or just follow us. It's at Theoretical Nonsense Pod.
Oh yeah.
All right, a couple more housekeeping things.
So I was gonna throw in that we got an email, and I missed it before, and there was a follow up, and I appreciate the follow up because I try to pride myself that I'm a good email keeper, but I'd like to do a shout out to Squared Up. Squared Up originally wrote, as requested, just wanted to drop a line and say hi. Keep up the good work. I really enjoy the podcast. Could you raise the overall volume of your podcast overall? It seems low compared to others. I am hard of hearing, and that would really help me. If you put the email and Twitter link in your podcast description, I think you would get more feedback. I am not even sure I typed this email address correctly. I love the two of yours dynamic. You balance each other out nicely. I look forward to many more episodes. Thanks. And then a follow-up of, hello, anybody out there. I appreciate the work you're putting into the podcast. I'm really enjoying it, and for your Instagram photos. So, thank you for the email. I appreciate the feedback. In fact, Rob and I were talking that just listening over to the podcast from last week, it sounded a little low to me, so I've turned up my gain a little bit, and Rob's talking about maybe adjusting the volume a little bit more and post-production. And, and we're also definitely going to start putting in all our information to the podcast information too. So thank you very much.
Which I've already done. So thank you for that email. Like, I'm a big dum-dum, so I didn't even think about that. So I put our Instagram handle and our email on the show notes. So you could find it there, because Theoretical Nonsense Pod is it is pretty long. So it's like, oh, how do you spell that? What's going on?
It's my podcast, and I probably wouldn't spell it right.
I actually do. What I did, I was spelling it out so often on my phone that I got mad that I actually abbreviated it because you could actually put settings on autocorrect on your phone. So I actually inserted it. So I abbreviated it as TN. So every time I type TN, it autocorrects to Theoretical Nonsense.
Nice.
Just because it's like, I don't want to keep typing this out. So
I do that with when I'm grading papers online or for students. I have autocorrect for comments that I have to repeat, like maybe misspellings or comma usage. Instead of like writing out the whole comma or a comment, I just put in like a CS for comma splice explanation.
That's smart. Yeah. Getting high tech on this podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, so thanks again for that email, and I'm so glad it's nice. A nice email.
Right.
And sorry that we didn't see it. I searched once. Ryan told me that we got a couple emails, and then you emailed us earlier too, like a month ago. I tried hunting around for it, so sorry. I guess it might have ended up in spam, and we might have just cleared it out. So sorry again about that.
Yes, very. But we got the second one, and I'm glad we did. That's awesome.
Yes. And we also got another 5-star review.
Yeah.
We're sitting pretty at 5 out of 5. Hopefully it stays that way. This is from Disco Lemonade 22. So thank you for your 5-star review. It says the title is Fun and Educational. Rob and Ryan are a blast to listen to because they play off each other so well. I find their episodes satisfy my curiosity about episode plot points, and I walk away a more knowledgeable person. This podcast combines the best of... Oh, shoot. It just cut off right there. 1 second. Why are you not showing the whole thing?
You know, mine did that too. My computer does that. My phone shows the whole thing, but for some reason my computer cuts them off.
Oh, stupid computer. I'm switching over to my phone right now because you will get your entire review read. This is happening. 1 second.
Despite what Apple wants me to read, I'm going to read the whole thing. I'll find a way.
This is how we stick it to Apple.
Yeah.
But if you are listening out there, Apple, we love you.
We love you so much.
Please sponsor us. All right, here it is. The ending of it is, this podcast combines the best of friendly banter and food for thought. And I'm wondering if you said that because I'm constantly trying to turn this into a food podcast.
Play on words. Food for thought.
So thank you again, Disco Lemonade 22. So like we said, we have an Instagram account, we have an email, and you can give us a review. And the way reviews work is you could really only do it on Apple Podcasts. I tried looking for it on Spotify and Stitcher, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. I don't think you could do it on Spotify. And Stitcher, you could do it on your computer, but there's no way to actually find it once you put in your review. So if you're going to give us a review, do it on Apple Podcasts. It's really weird like that.
And apparently it only gives us part of the review if we look at it on our laptops.
Yeah. So if this is your first time here, we are Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast, no PhD necessary. We are the podcast that watches, reviews, recaps, and does IQ points on all the episodes of the Big Bang Theory. And when I say IQ points, we are deep diving all the random facts that all the characters talk about. And this is actually Ryan's first time ever watching the entire series. And I'd like to think that he's still having a good time with this.
I'm still having a good time. You know, Grasshopper taste testing always makes me happy. So, you know, hopefully there's more episodes that we can really get into experiments with. But, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I like the characters. I like where it's going. And it's a great conversation piece, too.
Yeah, housekeeping over.
Okay. So should we jump into the episode?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, so episode 8, this is the Grasshopper Experiment, is directed by Ted Wass. Teleplay was by Lee Aronson and Robert Cohen. It aired on November 12th, 2007, so 2007, which is kind of interesting because some of those, it's been about 15 years since some of these have aired, and quite a bit has happened in the world since these episodes have aired, and that influences the deep dives and a little bit of some of the information I found. I thought that was interesting that if I had watched it back then, not the same information would have been available, and the conversation would be different about some stuff that happens in this episode.
Yeah, that's really true. Like a lot of the research that I looked into, I could not look back to what happened in 2007, or if I did, it would take way too long to do. So I was looking at more current information for a lot of this stuff.
It's like if I want to go to what is it, the microfiche at the library, I'm sure I could have found out a lot more, but that is time that we're not investing quite that much time. But there is still a lot to be said. Diving into the episode, we start off with Sheldon looking through his wallet, and this I'm going to let Rob make the choice here on if this is 1 point for Sheldon or not, because I'm kind of in between that. I have a wallet. I did a little research. I would say this is partial IQ, not a full IQ point, but there are a few big wallet types. There's a bifold, a trifold, and a long wallet. And a big thing right now is the choice between like a bifold, like kind of a horizontal versus a vertical wallet. I go with a bifold. I go with the horizontal, and it is pretty full of cards, mostly, I say, mug club cards for different restaurants and breweries, library cards, some coupons, some gift certificates, my license, my school ID. So it's full, but I don't have any planetarium cards. I don't have any museum cards, and I don't have any comic book cards.
So no honorary Justice League of America card?
No honorary Justice League of America card.
But it is jam-packed. How long have you had your wallet?
This one?
How often I guess the question is, how often do you switch out?
Maybe every decade.
Okay, after it kind of falls apart.
Yeah, once it starts falling apart.
Okay. When you did you have to, like Sheldon, is it hard to pick and choose which cards you need to pick, or pick and choose what cards fit in there, or are you just gonna shove it in there? You're just gonna cram that and stretch it out?
I try to choose, but I end up stretching it out quite a bit. Within the first week, it goes through a stretch process.
I'm tempted to lean towards non-Sheldon then, because Sheldon didn't seem to think that through, because he could have easily just crammed it in there and and stretched it out. Granted, nobody likes to stretch out your wallet, because then once the pocket's loose, you're fucked.
Yeah, things will slip back out. But you know what? I'll never have, or I will always have enough to fill it up. So I'm not going to worry about that.
Okay, so. And then did you notice that he was also wearing an Aquaman shirt as he was doing it?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he was, so it makes sense that he chose his honorary Justice League of America card to put in there.
Because Batman signs always keep this with you. Mm-hmm. Alright, so for those of you who are just tuning in, I do keep a tally of points through the episodes over whether or not I am like Sheldon or not like Sheldon, because so many people have, through my life, told me that, wow, you're a lot like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, and I've never watched it, so I'm actually going to pay attention to, am I Sheldon or not? Right now, that's 1 point for I stretch my wallets out, which means I am 1 point not like Sheldon.
And what's the tally at right now?
That just made it 7-8.
In favor of Sheldon?
Not in favor of Sheldon, yes.
Oh, okay.
So, yep. Yeah, right now I am Sheldon by 1 point. Okay, so we had the wallet talk. And then Raj comes in with his laptop, with his parents basically FaceTiming, Skyping from India because they just got broadband. And his parents kind of assume that Sheldon and Leonard are partners, right?
That they're a couple living together. Like Haroon and Tanvir.
Yes, who just adopted a nice baby, right?
Yeah, I thought it was so sweet how accepting they are.
Yeah, straight accepting. And Leonard's pretty straight up like, no, not like them. But after this scene, he's kind of like, maybe we are like them. He's come to accept his fate.
Yep.
I also like the parents' comments about whether or not Sheldon and Leonard's parents are okay and accepting of their limited earnings from being academics.
And I think it was Leonard said no and Sheldon said yes.
Yeah, that's what I got. Yes.
So did you do any research on how much university researchers make?
I didn't. It was a little too depressing for me. I am in academia myself, and I was kind of like, yeah, there's a limited earning potential as a teacher. But I didn't go in for it for the money. I don't know why I went into it.
The love of education.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, totally. As you drink more grasshoppers, forget the pain.
Ease the pain, drink grasshopper.
Well, this brought up my first IQ points.
Okay.
Because I was really curious, because this does turn into a fairly big plot point for other episodes in the future about their earning potential. Not all the time, but it does get brought up. So it did get me a little curious about how much university researchers make. So I found a couple websites. So this is kind of scaled across bestcolleges.com, glassdoor.com, zippia.com, payscale.com, because I wanted to cross-reference, because you can't just trust one website. So professors, so full-on professors in the United States have an average, so this is just an average, of $143,000 per year. An associate professor in the United States has an average of $97,000 per year. And researchers can range from $47,000 a year to $133,000 per year, but the actual average is $68,000. Very similar numbers amongst other websites. The range of a researcher's salary is $44,000 to $88,000 a year, with an average of $64,000. So Caltech is where they work. So specifically in Caltech, scientific researchers, which I would imagine, well, maybe some of them are, I don't know really, they might be under physicist. I'm not really sure how those two are really different, if they're teaching courses or not, but a scientific researcher can earn $42,000 to $97,000 a year, with an average of $65,000. A physicist, on the other hand, like I said, I'm not quite sure what the difference is. One might be a teacher, one might just be a specific researcher. Physicists can earn an average of $36,000 per year to $89,000 per year, with an average of $61,000. So physicists don't really make that much there.
It might be something where they add them on, where they do part teaching and then part researching with a combined income from the two projects.
That could be it, like a little add-on, like a little bonus or something like that.
Yeah.
Like for every class you teach, you get a little bit more, something like that.
And for every research project, you get a stipend for the project or something like that. I can't speak for everyone, and there's not a whole lot of research to do in English teaching, but
so no new vowels, no new consonants coming out?
I've created a new letter, and it's going to revitalize the whole English language. It's going to blow your mind on how we talk.
Love it. Well, those salaries affect Leonard, Raj, and Sheldon, because they're all the three of them are physicists, whereas Howard is an aerospace engineer. Aerospace engineers in Caltech can range from $59,000 to $122,000 per year, with an average of $83,000 per year. So Howard potentially earns significantly more than all of them.
Wow.
Which is kind of funny, because he's constantly being ridiculed for not having a PhD and not, just being an engineer. But his earning potential is significantly higher.
He's the one without the degree, and he's potentially making more than them. Which I think says something about education, is that higher education does not mean a better paycheck.
That's sad. That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never felt so good not having a PhD.
So that depressing bit of news with my teaching employment.
Well, that's all I had in terms of that That IQ point.
That was a good IQ point. I'll take it. So the parents say there's some good news that they're gave information to Lolita that Raj was in the U.S. and she is in dental school, and that they should hook up, and that they start talking about arranged marriages. And so I did some research on arranged marriages. Did you look into this at all?
Me too.
Nice. Since you just had the payments, I'll start with arranged marriages and see how we match up. So we get some interesting stuff here. We get arranged marriages versus more personal choice marriages. And I did a few websites. One was brides.com, and one was the University of Oxford website discussing marriages and the history. But, when we think of arranged marriages, I guess typical Western thoughts on arranged marriage is that a group of people, usually parents, are forcing their kids to get married. And to some extent that was true. That used to be true. But things have changed a little bit in that even though arranged marriages today still exist, quite a few of them, is getting more custom or more practice that each individual has a choice in his or their own marriage. That it's not my parents say I'm going to marry this person and it has to be. But we've seen this throughout time, not just with royalty, but with everybody else as kind of an economic plan to set up certain families so that they can produce more and survive through, whatever the economy or culture or time has prepared for them. And what else? Something that brides.com said was that arranged marriages have a typical divorce rate of about 4%. And other marriages, love-based marriages, it's more about 40 to 50% divorce rate. And it, I think that there might be reasons for this, and I think that there's studies out there, but not a whole lot of details that potentially arranged marriages aren't just we love each other more, but with traditional values like that, traditional marriage arrangement, it might possibly be that the values might be we will work through any problems we see in a marriage. And so, it's hard to say for sure, but it might very well be that parents can just hook their kids up with people of the same caliber, or that the parents will appreciate, that they think will get along with their kid because they know their kid that well. But I also found out that personal preference and personal love-based marriages, how we know them, resulted from the 12th century and likely resulted from a religious shift, a Christian Catholic shift from as Jesus and the Father being a father figure to Christ being a human figure dying for our sins, being more emotionally charged and focusing on our relationships between each other romantically and spiritually. And this boost in emotional relationships sparked more romantic relationships, which also matched up with a rise in aristocracy, basically more people reading, more people caring about their emotions, meant more, more of a need for literature outside just religious scripture. And we started seeing romantic scripture or romantic literature being pushed out there because people love reading about romances. And once people start reading about it, they start shifting to, that's what I want for myself too, and start seeking out romance for themselves. So a mix between literature changing and becoming available to everyone, and religion changing, equaling what we know as the love-based marriage. So that's what I found. What'd you get?
I actually found very similar information. In my research, I was more geared specifically toward the Indian culture, just because I was kind of just seeing how relevant it is today, how often it actually still occurs today, because this is back in 2007.
Yeah.
We still kind of talk, it still shows up in TV shows and movies nowadays too, so it still is relatively relevant. So I just wanted to see how true it was, where it came from, and the state it's in now. So I found this on scholarblogs.emory.edu, and very similar to like what you were saying. And I was thinking about this as you said that the divorce rate was a lot lower, and it kind of makes sense because in the research that I did, the a marriage wasn't the union between two people for love. It was treated as an alliance between two families. So that's really what it was. And playing on how you were saying that the families were choosing someone similar to them, this was also based off the caste system in India. So the caste system, which I actually did a lot of research on which I'll get into next, the caste system is that every person is on a different, level.
Yeah.
So the caste system, so this kind of goes into my next point too, which I'll get into after. The caste system is a system that divides Hindus into a rigid hierarchical group based on their work and religion. So people were just put on these different caste levels. And generally, when people were arranging the marriages, they wanted to stay within their own caste. And that was part of the reason why they wanted the parents to choose someone for their own child, because they wanted a union with that family.
As opposed to marrying up or down, because, like you said, it's an alliance between two families.
Yeah, and that could be one of the reasons why the divorce rate is a little lower, too, just because it's an obligation to their family too. It's not just between two people that it affects, that it's an entire family. So that's why they wouldn't divorce or split or anything, because it's an obligation.
And I had to wonder if maybe marrying on a caste, I don't really like the idea of having different levels or tiers for people in a community, but even in the United States and Europe, we still have it to some extent. And marrying outside of your class, middle class, upper class, lower class, you do face challenges of different cultural values, how to spend money, how to save money, how to make money, how much, even the notion of like when you eat out, where you eat, how much you spend on a meal. And I wonder if like cases like, who is it? Prince Harry, who married the
Meghan Markle.
Yeah, United States actress, right?
Yep.
That they're definitely not in the same class that I would think of. Maybe both more upper class, but he was royalty, literally royalty. And I'm sure that's offering challenges that we don't necessarily think of when we're thinking completely with our hearts.
I dissected it a little bit more into Muslim arranged marriages and Hindu arranged marriages.
Ooh.
So in the Muslim culture, marriage is the obligation of the parents to their child. So that's why they take it so serious. That's why like you kind of see like it's stereotypically in movies how adamant the parents are about the arranged marriage. And it's because as parents, it's their duty to find someone for their child. So a parent's duty is not completed unless their daughter is happily married. Ooh. So that's like a big thing too, is that they want to find a good person for their daughter. The female is viewed as what they call par gaheri, which is a person made from somebody else's house. So it's the groom's responsibility to make the first move and to make their son marketable. So that's why it's important that's why Raj's parents are on him about his lifestyle and everything, because it's their job to make him marketable, because they're the ones that are going to be pretty much taking a daughter from someone else's family. So they need to make sure that Raj is good.
I think that's fair. There's something to be said about that. I know my parents have been on my back that I'm getting older and that I was single for a long time and that I don't have kids. And they're like, why aren't you out there finding and making kids for us? And I'm like, oh, technically it's your duty to make me marketable. You should be hooking me up.
So really, this is your fault, Mom and Dad.
I blame you guys. Do your job better.
So, sorry, I've been talking about the Muslim culture and I've been comparing it to Raj, but in the show, Raj is Hindu. But we'll get into that. There actually is a lot of similarities. But to finish off the Muslim part, most Muslim arranged marriages are solemnized 4 years after the asking ceremony. So there's a pretty long engagement. There's also a dowry given to the bride's family. It's optional, but legally unlawful. So they kind of have to pay for her. They should. So in the Hindu culture, one is considered incomplete and unholy if not married. The arranged marriage here is very similar to Muslims, that the male's family's duty is to seek the female and arranging the marriage, but it seems more transactional. They find a matchmaker. Then once the matchmaker finds a match, the two families meet to discuss dowry, time, location of the wedding, the birth stars of the boy and girl, and education. During this time, the males of the families gather to discuss the terms, shake hands, and set a date for the wedding. So very transactional.
Interesting.
And then to finish off this IQ point, as I mentioned, I was thinking about how relevant it is today and how often it actually still happens. So there was according to BBC.com, there was a survey in 2018. So more than 160,000 households were surveyed in India. So 93% of married Indians said that theirs was arranged, and just 3% had a love marriage. So marrying within your caste is still a big thing there. So in a 2014 study, less than 10% married outside of their caste, and less than 5% married outside of their religion. A study showed that many women claim that they would be willing to marry outside of their caste, but reveal the opposite in actual decision making. So it's the whole like romanticizing of it all, like, oh yeah, I would totally choose someone. But then once you look at somebody on paper, it ends up being somebody in their own caste.
It's easy to say, but to put your words into action, right? Money where your mouth is, it's a lot harder to do.
Yep. And that's what I got on arranged marriage.
Interesting. So,
not to dominate the mic. I know that it's your episode, but
no worries.
It kind of goes hand in hand. Like what I was saying on my next IQ point was that when Raj was talking about who Lalita Gupta was, he said she was the little fat girl who would kick him and call him untouchable. And this is not the first time, or this is the first time, but it won't be the last time that this term gets used, untouchable. I don't know if you're familiar with the term or if you did any research on this one.
I didn't do any research, but I'm a little familiar that it is technically a caste. It is a level, right? It's and it's the bottom, like the worst. And that's pretty much what I'm familiar with regarding it.
Correct. It is in the caste system in India. The untouchable is the lowest bottom one. So there's actually this long history of this, and it just opened up this huge, like, I'll try to make this brief because we have so many things, other things to go over. But IQ point, what is an untouchable? So this is, I looked at 3 sites, Britannica.com, Wikipedia, and BBC.com to kind of collect all the information. So an untouchable, also called a Dalit, officially in the scheduled caste, formerly Hajiran, in traditional Indian society, is the name for any member of a wide range of low caste Hindu groups and any person outside of the caste system. So it's the bottom of the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So the caste system, originally there were only 4 levels in the caste system, and the Dalit was used to make a 5th group. The Dalit, the romanticized Sanskrit definition, is derived from Dalita, meaning broken or scattered. But in modern literature, Dalit refers to united or grouped together. And
that's the opposite.
And right now, like currently, there are 3,000 castes and 25,000 subcastes in India. So it's still like a pretty big thing. And each one is related to a specific occupation.
So it's not necessarily finances, it's the occupation that decides it a little bit.
A little bit, like a doctor versus, like, not to knock a fast food worker, but a fast food, it's like they're like...
Or a construction worker versus an engineer versus a manager versus a
Having
dentist.
a PhD versus not having a PhD.
Exactly.
So there are originally the 4 levels, which originated from Brahma, the Hindu god of creation. There were Brahims, which were teachers and intellectuals, which made up Brahma's head. The Kshatriyas, which are the warriors and rulers, which were his arms. Vaishyas, which were the traders, which represented his thighs. Shudras were all menial jobs, which were represented by his feet. So those are the 4 main caste levels, and then those got divided up into 3,000 levels and then 25,000 sub levels.
Wow.
So the caste system was abolished from India, from the Indian Constitution back in 1948. Though still practiced in some parts of India, India has been trying to make amends with things very similar to what's in the United States with affirmative action. They're trying to backtrack and make it right. Since there are, I looked into this and I was very depressed after looking at this. I'm not going to tell you what I read because it might haunt you. It might haunt our listeners, but there are the Untouchables were such a low class that nobody cared about. They literally nobody cared about them. Horrible things happened to people and the police just didn't care because they're on that caste level. No one cares. So that's why it's I'm good. I'm not going to tell you any of the stories I read.
This is a Grasshopper episode. We're supposed to be drinking and laughing.
Yeah, I know. We're supposed to be having fun. So, but this is not the end of the sadness of this episode. There's another IQ point that gets a little sad, but we'll try to keep it a little lighter. But that's what I had on Untouchables. So pretty dark.
Pretty dark. I had a partial IQ to cheer things up.
Yes.
That Doogie Howser in India. I couldn't really find anything about his popularity in 2007, but I did find an article saying that Comedy Central brought Doogie Howser to India on Saturday and Sundays in 2012. So it's not that unrealistic that this sitcom from 89, it was 89 to 93, with Neil Patrick Harris, was being watched in 2007 because Comedy Central then runs the repeats and over and over again for several years. So potentially in 2007 it might have been popular. Definitely, according to bestmediainfo.com, it started up it was definitely there in 2012.
I did some research on that too.
Okay.
Glad we thought of the same thing. I couldn't find a lot of information in 2007, but I did find on a survey in 2014 the top 16 American shows that were very popular in India. Did you find that list too? Or?
No, I didn't.
All right. On the top of the list, Big Bang Theory.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Then House of Cards,
The
Newsroom, Game of Thrones, Hannibal, Grey's Anatomy, How I Met Your Mother, Neil Patrick Harris. Why not, right?
Exactly.
Mad Men, 2.5 Men, Suits, which actually featured Meghan Markle.
Oh.
Modern Family, Dexter, Homeland, Castle, Criminal Minds, and finally, Vampire Diaries.
That makes sense. But those are more modern ones. So Doogie Howser's not on it, but that's definitely going for the most watched current shows, right?
Yeah, back in 2014. So This is 2007, so maybe it was Doogie Howser.
Yeah. And it might still have been popular. I mean, we get Nick at Night shows. I remember when I was a kid, Nick at Night aired Dobie Gillis and then I Love Lucy and Bewitched. I remember as a kid, I'm these are awful. I like some of them, but now they're
playing. Of Jeannie.
I Dream of Jeannie. Now they're play Friends all the time, and I'm I love Friends.
It's crazy. But I loved Bewitched. I watched that so often.
Yeah. What was the one with the cousins that looked alike and talked alike, and that was the theme song. They did a little dance that ring any bells? I'll have to look that one up. I
Yeah, I'm
always
not
forget
sure
the
what that
name.
one was.
Then Dobie Gillis is the one about the guy who was kind of a player, but not by our terms. He's just always hitting on women and trying to go on dates or something. He always sat by a statue and did the thinking pose. So that's my whole recollection. But this is from like little kid me who didn't remember a whole lot. So yeah.
Well, before we move on, as Raj is having this conversation with his parents, I did want to throw this in there that I think was my favorite quote of the episode. Raj asked Sheldon, "Why do you keep telling me about my own culture?" And Sheldon's response is classic. He just says, "Well, you seemed confused." I think that was my favorite quote of the episode.
That was a great quote. Great quote. And then Raj leaves and they start talking about Fiddler on the Roof. And this is where they decide that they may be like the gay partners Raj's parents mentioned because they own a copy of it and they all decide to watch it.
I'm very unfamiliar with Fiddler on the Roof. I just know it gets mentioned a lot on other TV shows, so I kind of know, like, but nothing really.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, should we have a side episode where we watch Fiddler and talk about it?
I think so. I think we need to make I'm making a note here. Movie night. Like, I can't even say what it's about completely because I just don't know that much about it.
I know nothing.
Huh. Interesting. But I do believe that the song at the end, there is a song at the end that Sheldon's playing.
Sheldon is from Fiddler.
Yeah. Okay, so that wraps up the beginning, and we go into the credits. And then, while Sheldon's canceling his planetarium card because they don't have dinosaurs, totally respect that.
Respect points, Sheldon. Yeah. Respect.
Raj enters, and Lolita has called him, and he's afraid to call her back because he can't speak to women. But Howard takes the phone away from him and gives her a call with a fake accent. And this brings up some interesting conversation, I think, for how this is considered, because he gets away with it, and people laugh, but Raj is offended and says, "You've turned me into a Simpsons character." And I mean, on the bright side, he did get the job done, set up the date, so that's good, but definitely turned him into a Simpsons character, right?
Yeah, it was a little over the top and exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
Not definitely won't be the last time you see Howard imitate Raj.
And I did a small IQ point on this one because it got me thinking about Apu from Simpsons, right? Did you do anything on this one?
I did not.
So Apu was a character on Simpsons who owned a 7-Eleven, and he was voiced by Hank Azaria.
That was the Quickie Mart?
The Quickie Mart, that's right. Not a 7-Eleven, Quickie Mart. I jumped to a conclusion. And he was known for the catchphrase, "Thank you, come again." And over the last, it's interesting because this episode took place in 2007, but I would say over the last 10 years, more and more issues over political correctness and cultural appropriation and stereotyping characters within shows it's become more and more relevant, and Apu has been one that's been critically discussed for years. And as of I'd say, what is it? In 2017, a documentary was released called "The Problem with Apu," and kind of went into depth. I haven't watched it, but apparently went into depth about the issues with the character stereotypes of this cartoon. And in 2020, Hank Azaria stepped down from being Apu and has gone on the record multiple times saying that he didn't realize that being the character was offensive, how offensive it would be, but throughout the years, he has grown to learn that it was offensive, and he is very apologetic for causing any pain or distraught from his actions of playing this character. In other reviews, I think that's what it was, that there was a 7-Eleven I didn't document that statistic about whether or not the stereotypes with Apu and these issues were offensive, and definitely mixed reactions. That some people are just like, it's a cartoon, it's not a big deal, and some people are like, yeah, those are stereotypes and we don't like them, they are offensive. So as of 2020, Zario stepped down, and Apu, the Simpsons character that was basically being referenced by Raj, is no more. He's not going to be on Simpsons any longer.
Oh, they completely removed his character?
Yeah, as far as I understand, he's
Oh.
gone.
Yeah, I
So
haven't watched The Simpsons in, gosh, 15 years.
right, every now and then I catch an episode, and apparently he hadn't been on anyways for a couple episodes, couple years. But they're like, you know what? There's no point in keeping him if he's causing offense to anyone, because there's other jokes, other humor to make.
I don't know if you researched this, but did Hank Azaria leave the show entirely? Because I know he voiced multiple characters. Did he stay with the show?
I believe he stayed with the show. He's just
Uh,
stepped down from that character.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think was a big part of them ending the character, because he kind of made it sound like, if he was still willing to play it, the producers, the makers would be like, oh, let's just keep the character. We don't care. I'm not sure how true that is, but it did seem like his actions definitely spurred what became of the character being cut out of the show or ended. So yeah, that was the IQ point. And then now we get to the fun part. Penny enters, and she needs some guinea pigs. And I love Sheldon says, I can get you some rats, and they're much more effective with being more human-like, right? And she's like, I don't really understand how to talk to you. But she does need test subjects to try her drinks, because she is going to be a bartender at Cheesecake Factory.
Did you do any research on the genetic similarities of mice or rodents to humans?
No, I didn't.
Because I did.
Woohoo! IQ point.
Instantly into the next IQ point. This episode is like rich with IQ points.
Seriously, and they're all like really deep too. They're not really like, I found I could have gone in down deep dark holes researching
all of these.
Yeah,
I know. So IQ points are mice's brain chemistry closest to ours. So I found this on the San Diego Union Tribune. It was an article on April 2nd, 2015. The article is about Andrea Chiba, which was the college professor in San Diego, UC. And it's true. Rodents are genetically similar to humans. They also have shorter lifespans, so we're able to study them across generations if desired. So that's actually why mice get chosen for these experiments a lot. So, and then I also found this on the Jackson Laboratory, jax.org. So this is actually a quote from the site to explain it all. Humans and mice don't look alike, but both species are mammals and are biologically very similar. Almost all of the genes in mice share functions with the genes in humans. That means we develop in the same way from egg and sperm and have same kinds of organs, heart, brain, lungs, kidney, etc., as well as similar circulatory, reproductive, digestive, hormonal, and nervous systems. These similarities make it possible for scientists to study the physiology of mice to glean information about how human beings grow, develop diseases, and age. This genetic similarity also means that mice and humans inherit traits in the same way. This includes physical traits such as hair color, coat color in mice, and susceptibility to diseases such as heart disease or Alzheimer's. So that's why laboratories choose mice.
That makes sense.
Yep.
I just read, and I didn't document this, but I like to think it's true, that it's not fake news, that a study was done where a rat was put in a like little restrictive cage, a little trap, and another rat came up and was giving the option to free him. And in those cases, even if it's not for a benefit or gain, a rat will free another rat that's in distress. And furthermore, that rat will save some of his chocolate findings. Apparently, they gave him some chocolate, and the rats would like hoard them, get them together. And if a rat was trapped, he would let them out and then share a little bit of chocolate and say, "You're having a bad day. Here's some chocolate." I'm like, that's the type of animal I want to live with. I like that compassion.
Except you don't want to live with mice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, not like in the walls.
I used my old house was near a river. I used to get like mice and rats like in the house and like crawl spaces and shit like that. It was not fun.
I have a stack of wood in the rear of my house, and I get rats in those. And every now and then I'm picking up wood for a fire, and they run out. I'm like, oh, that looked really large. Please stay away from my house. I'll give you chocolate.
Well, speaking of chocolate, are you ready to make those grasshoppers?
I am, but I have to say there's one more point for Sheldon here.
What? All right, let's do this.
He made when Penny says that she needs to repeat her actions to get better at bartending. He says that doesn't necessarily work for every single activity out there. And do you remember what he says? One example of repetition does not make you better is suicide.
Oh.
And that is a terrible joke, but that's a type of joke I would make and have everybody just look at me and say, "What's wrong with you?" So I'm giving that a point towards Sheldon. Awkward joke, and I'm assuming it's true, but it's also it was a distasteful joke.
That's wow.
So with that dark joke, let's make some chocolate grasshoppers.
All right, so we're ready to make our grasshoppers. I think we have all of our ingredients. Let's see. All right, I'm also recording this on video to post on our Instagram. So this should be fun. I'll edit it up and everything like that before I put it on there, just in case.
I'm starting off by throwing some ice into my shaker.
And I have my shaker with ice right now. So for everybody out there, while we're getting situated, a grasshopper, the recipe that we chose to do, just so we don't have too much heavy cream in this, but it is equal parts of creme de cacao, which is a chocolate liqueur, and also creme de menthe, which is a mint. Wait, right? Mint liqueur?
Yeah.
Peppermint?
Menthe liqueur.
Liqueur. Menthe.
What brands did you get?
I got Jacquin's.
Oh, that looks fancy.
Yeah. You mentioned that these liqueurs come in different
ABUs? Yeah.
Yeah, but the ones that I have are the creme de cacao is 17.5, and then the creme de menthe is 21%.
Dang.
So that's percentage, not proof.
So mine are both 15%.
Oh. All right. A little stronger.
But I did read a recipe where you can add a shot of vodka to increase the strength, so I think I'm going to do that to get on Rob's level.
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
And so, for those of you who are wondering, I'm going to be adding some Kirkland brand vodka. Alright. Take the lids off.
Alright, so we'll do equal parts.
1 part cacao. 1 part mint.
Oh, and also with the creme de cacao, it comes in either clear or dark brown. I was trying to see if there was a difference between them, and it's just the color. So it must just be based on how you want the color of your drink to end up.
I was assuming that the brown would probably make it kind of a dirty color.
Especially with the really green creme de menthe.
Yeah.
God, the creme de menthe really looks like NyQuil.
I was thinking the ooze from Ninja Turtles, but NyQuil works too. Some cream.
All right.
Oh no!
I'm good. Everything's good. I'm in a very tight space in the guest room. All right, I'm going to start shaking.
All right.
Oh shit!
Oh shit!
I'm spilling. You know what? I shook it enough. We're obviously not ready for our bartending shift at
Cheesecake Factory.
At Cheesecake Factory.
I'm gonna shake mine.
And the pour.
Time to pour. Uh-oh.
Oh, so green.
So green.
So green. And I got some chocolate shavings. Well, I'm just gonna put it through my microplane.
What type of chocolate are you going with?
So I went with a local company. It's called Sari's.
Oh.
And then the rest of this chocolate bar is gonna go to my wife.
Oh, nice.
So she's happy about me filming this.
I'm doing Lindt 100% cocoa bar. I love dark chocolate.
I went with the milk chocolate.
Oh.
Just because I really like milk chocolate.
Personal preference.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the shavings all over the place.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, my computer's chocolate now.
And this is going disastrously. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to wash my hands. But there it is. All right, I'm going to turn off the count right now. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
All right. Oh, yours looks nice.
What's yours look like?
A lot less. You can't really even see the chocolate there.
Oh, I see a little bit.
I just kind of shaved it on a little bit.
I put probably too much, but I like cocoa powder, so.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Wow.
I'm going to have to say that's better with half the cream.
Yeah, because you made it earlier in the week with the 2 parts of cream.
Yeah.
This is very minty, very chocolatey, minty. Little hint of booze. They're not. I'm used to drinking gin and vodka like straight, so this is a little. I mean, you could definitely taste the alcohol in it. But ooh, this is quite tasty. I can see why Raj chose it.
And I like with the shake, you get a little bit of frothiness at the top too. Frothy Grasshopper.
Yeah, I could definitely see if people don't drink a lot of alcohol, they can get pretty buzzed on this.
Yeah.
All right, so we found this recipe on celebratingsweets.com and bbcgoodfood.com. So Ryan, thank you for doing the research on this.
No problem. Anytime I can help a fellow drinker with grasshoppers.
So we'll post some pictures. I'll possibly post that video of me spilling everywhere and dropping things. I'm sure you'd love that on Instagram. Well, Penny makes the guys a tequila sunrise for Leonard, which is tequila, orange juice, grenadine, and garnish with an orange slice and cherry. Raj gets the grasshopper, as we mentioned, creme de cacao, creme de menthe, heavy cream, and garnish with shaved chocolate. Sheldon gets a little sassy, and he gets he wants a Diet Coke or a Virgin Cuba Libre. And I learned this when I actually did bartend. It does get a lime. That's what separates a rum and coke from a Cuba Libre is that slice of lime.
I can see that. I did a little research on this, and there's the rum and coke would be the lime. Some people were saying the glasses. Some people were saying the types of rum. And it's kind of open, but lime is definitely in the Cuba Libre. So I have an IQ point about the history of Cuba Libres. Do you? No. Okay.
Lay it on me.
So what got me into this is because I always heard that it had to do with Coke being a symbol of capitalism, of America, right? Coca-Cola basically defined Santa Claus as we know Santa Claus today. That's why Santa Claus is red and white, like Coke's colors.
Wait, seriously?
Absolutely. Yep. Coca-Cola defined Santa Claus. He's a representation of a mix between "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," that poem, and Coca-Cola's commercial iteration of him.
Oh, shit.
Mind blown, right? It's kind of creepy, but so yeah, Coca-Cola is America, and the notion of, as Cuba was fighting for their freedom during different events, it became kind of a big thing about being free and having American products, and during communism, mixing Coke with rum. But according to liquor.com, that's not quite the story. It was that in 1900, a U.S. naval captain was at a bar during the Spanish War, Spanish-American War, and did a toast. He poured Coke and lime on top of Bacardi. According to the legend, it was on top of Bacardi, and Bacardi, of course, stands by this. That was our rum first, which stands by, depending on what type of rum it is, it may not be a Cuba Libre. And Cuba Libre stands for, well, the toast was Por Cuba Libre, which translates to free Cuba. In essence, it was to free Cuba from Spain. So that's where, according to legend, it was came from. But according to Statista.com, as of 2021, you are not really able to get Coca-Cola within Cuba due to trading embargoes. Cuba and, it said, North Korea are two countries where Coke is not freely available. So it is kind of this interesting background that Coke is so American-oriented, and the rum and freeing Cuba is so essential to that drink, yet Coke is not available in Cuba at this point, or as of 2021. But yeah, that's what I found.
Nice. I had no idea.
And here we give me a point for Penny. Penny gets a point because I drink alcohol and Sheldon does not. He requests a virgin Cuba Libre.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not going to, even when I was a kid, I tried not getting the virgin ones.
And the last drink that they get, Howard wants a slippery nipple, which apparently is a real thing. I don't know if it was at the time or if they created it after this one, because at the time, because around this time was when I was bartending too, I knew that there was a buttery nipple. So I thought that that's what he meant, but he was just being a little too sexual about it. Mm-hmm. Not that a buttery nipple isn't sexual, but a buttery nipple is buttershot,
Butterscotch?
Butterscotch.
Butterscotch.
It definitely did not.
It's a shot of butter. You mix the butter with the heavy cream.
I definitely typed that wrong. I was like, buttershots?
Wow.
Butterscotch liqueur and Irish cream. I remember having this a lot when I first started drinking because it was like basically like candy.
I remember
very similar to a grasshopper.
On cruises, they would do after dinner drinks. I'm not sure if they still do, but they used to. And my parents would let me have them as a kid because back then on open waters, there was no drinking age. Now it's basically like 18 with most and standards with most countries. But yeah, back then, like, I don't know if there were any restrictions at all, but they let me have after dinner drinks, and Buttery Nipple was one of them. And I remember, like, this is amazing. Why don't I drink?
Awesome. Why are people doing this all the time?
Right?
Well, I looked into what a slippery nipple was, and it's a layered shot, grenadine, which is optional, but then there's Sambuca and Irish cream. So then you layer it so it's multiple colors and very similar to the Tequila Sunrise, but it's a shot.
Are you good at layering stuff?
I never really had to. Like, that's the funny thing. Like, when I was training to be a bartender, they train you how to do all these things, but like most people don't order those things. Like, it's actually really rare that people do. So I never really had the opportunity to really try.
I was going to say, when I attended bar, it was always rum and cokes, gin and tonics, and beer. And I was good at all three of those. Every now and then I'd get a dirty martini. But yeah, never any shots, really.
So, oh my god, like, I'm throwing this in now because I found it this morning when I was just kind of browsing through Instagram. It's so perfect that it landed today, but this was an article on BuzzFeed. So the article is, let it load up, on BuzzFeed Tasty, they have this article that says bartenders are revealing the things they assume whenever you order your go-to cocktail. And I, for one, can tell you I'm never ordering a mojito again. So basically, all bartenders stereotype people from the drink that they order.
I can see that.
So let's see what they say. I'll try to make this quick because it's like... Okay, so if you order a Jack and Coke, you're a traditionalist. And as the night goes on, you tend to increase the amount of Jack while cutting back on the Coke. If you order a Manhattan, you are it's a very respectable order, a classy drink that is easy to make. You know cocktails, but you aren't going to make things overly difficult. That's my usual go-to cocktail. If you order a fruity beer, you're a girl who wants to impress her boyfriend, but doesn't actually drink beer. If you order a craft hard cider, you're a woman in a comfortable, long-term relationship who got a babysitter for the evening, but you're not staying out too late. So I guess that's assuming that you're a woman that orders this.
Mm-hmm.
Malibu and pineapple juice. You tend to cry after your second drink. If you order a vodka soda with cranberry, you care about calories more than your wallet and haven't yet met a cosmopolitan. If you order a Long Island iced tea, you're a college student trying to get drunk as quickly as possible. Facts.
That sounds right, yeah.
This one's a little long. If you order a mimosa, you're wearing a maxi dress and full makeup. You exude luxury, but might have to check your bank accounts before choosing which credit card to pay your bill with. You will Venmo request $3.89 from each of your friends who ate off the shared plate that you ordered. By the second round, you'll be speaking at 150% the volume of the loudest patron. Or you're in your early 20s and will tell your friends it doesn't count as day drinking if it's brunch. You'll all laugh. One of you will be puking by 4 p.m. Whiskey sour, a good and savvy choice for making a cheap whiskey taste nice. Whiskey sours are very good. An amaretto sour, this is where I laugh because this one was me in my early 20s. If you order an amaretto sour, which I used to do because they're delicious, You probably are the one to hold your friend's hair back when they're puking at the end of the night.
Aww.
That was me. Cosmopolitan. You're almost certainly a pain in the ass. Yikes. Dark and stormy. You're pretty close to college age and have had this on spring break where the mistakes were made. Also, where's your ID? Anything frozen or blended. You're high maintenance and or you're on vacation. Mojito. If it's slow, hell yeah, great order. They're tasty if the bar is busy. Then there's a special place in hell for you.
That's fair.
Yeah, because you got to muddle a lot of shit and everything like that. It's like it actually is a hard drink to make, but they are quite tasty.
That's what I was thinking. My cocktail go-to is usually old fashioned. But if the bar is busy, I'm not going to order that because even though it's traditional and it's not super difficult, like to do it well, you have to put some time into muddling the stuff and getting it right.
Yeah, it's like muddled oranges with bitters, and then
it's like oranges and sugar, whiskey,
sugar too, yeah.
Water garnished with an orange and cherry, and some bitters on top to give it that aromatics, right?
Yeah.
I've had good ones. I've had horrible ones, but where they basically just mix orange juice, grenadine, and whiskey together. I'm like, what the hell is this?
I had the worst one at the fanciest restaurant in my town. It was like this place. It was after we just got engaged. Yeah. It was after we just got engaged. We went to go celebrate, and we went to the nicest steakhouse in like the town.
Mm-hmm.
And I ordered an old fashioned there, and they made it with crushed ice. I was so pissed. I was like, oh my god, why? It's so watery now.
That reminds me of one time I was at a bar and I ordered a Boilermaker, which is a pint of beer and a shot of whiskey, right? And the lady must not have had any idea of what that was because I told her, and it's definitely a shot of whiskey on the side, but she poured the whiskey into the pint glass, and before I could say no, she poured the beer on it too. And then I felt too bad to say anything, so I paid for it and drank it. But whiskey and beer is not, it doesn't taste great together like that. But I do have a story about shots. So there is a popular shot called a blowjob. Have you ever had a blowjob?
The drink?
Yes.
I'm not going to say it.
So it's made of Bailey's, Amaretto, Kahlua, and it's topped with whipped cream. Basically tastes like chocolate coffee. I love it. But the staple is that you're supposed to take it without your hands.
Out of someone's lap.
Out of someone's lap, yeah. And apparently, when my sister bartended, she lived in England for a while. She bartended there. And guys would get them for girls as basically practical jokes. Like, haha, do this blowjob. You're going to have to do a blowjob now. And the bartenders kind of got sick of these. So they came up with their own drink and would give it to guys that would say, okay, if you order the blowjob, you have to do this. And it was the same shot, Kahlua, Bailey's, Amaretto, and whipped cream, but it was in a like whiskey sifter. And so a shot like in a sifter, a little tumbler, and top it off with a bunch of whipped cream. But the rules are the same. You have to take it with your mouth, not your hands. And they called it a muff diver. And apparently guys stopped laughing about the blowjob shots so much after a couple of those were served. So
yeah, you know what? It's that's what you get.
Yeah, right? And I actually tried that one time. It's really hard to get your mouth around a whiskey sifter, but
yeah. Well, I'm not going to read any more of the article. I just saw that amaretto sour one, and I was just like laughing my ass off. I was like, "Yep, that's me."
They know my soul.
There's like 15 more, so I'm not going to read it all.
Uh-huh. All right, so they start making the drinks. Sheldon orders the Virgin Cuba Libre. They kind of have a big thing about it. He says that it's served with traditionally with lime and in a tall glass. And this becomes an ongoing joke for the episode. But then Raj, just like out of nowhere, starts talking to Penny.
Was your mind blown?
Oh, it was. But at the same time, when he talked in the other episode, you mentioned that he talked in front of her in a previous episode. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think this is as big of a deal. But it's directly to her, so it was still a big deal. I'm like, whoa, where'd this come from?
Yeah, it was a direct conversation with her.
Yeah, so a little bit different. And he starts off like, where is my life gone, right? And
yep.
Gonna be driving kids to cricket games, right?
Yep.
And she starts talking to him, and it takes a while for him to realize that he's talking to her. In fact, he doesn't. She has to say it to him. But he says that he was hoping he would be like Indira Gandhi, but in particle physics, astrophysics, but with a penis.
Mm-hmm.
And this gets into some background. Did you look up who that is?
Yep, this is another IQ point.
You got this one.
All right, you want me to take it?
Yeah.
All right. So, IQ points. Who is Indira Gandhi? She is India's first and only female prime minister. She was the second longest running prime minister after her father. And I'm going to shorthand this because this podcast isn't going to do her justice.
Right, there's a lot to be talked about. So much.
There's way too much to talk about. Her accomplishments are so long, and she's like this incredible person, too. Or at least, possibly not.
Dun, dun, dun.
We'll get into that.
What
but let's talk about her accomplishments, though. So she was actually referred to as the Iron Lady of India and has a legacy of being one of India's greatest prime ministers. Accomplishments include facilitating the Green Revolution. These are programs to help the mass hunger in India. Nationalizing 14 private sector banks. So that was getting better control over the banking system in India, because at the time, people would just lose their money in the banks. So she corrected that. The Indo-Pakistan War of 1971, it was the liberation of Bangladesh. The Shimla Agreement, which followed the Indo-Pakistan War, this was the agreement that paved the way for the diplomatic recognition of Bangladesh by Pakistan. Ending Privy Purse. Privy Purse was payment given to royal families, so that had to do with the caste system that we mentioned earlier. Operation Smiling Buddha was the code name for India's first nuclear bomb. Then she was also part of the first Indian to go to space, who was Rakesh Sharma in 1984. And facilitating foreign policy essentially made India a regional powerhouse of South Asia. So those are just a few of like her major accomplishments. So she did a lot.
Yeah.
And she served as prime minister from January of 1966 to March of 1977, and then again in January 1980 until her assassination in 1984. And this is where that dun 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 moment was. Of like, whoa, why did she get assassinated? Side note, I'm really feeling this grasshopper.
This grasshopper. Whoa! Is the world jumping and hopping, or is it just me?
Dude, this is going to be a great drink in the holidays.
Right? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is a holidays beverage.
Oh my god, I'm definitely going to make this again. All right, so her assassination. That was part of something called Operation Blue Star. This was a military operation carried out between June 1st through the 8th. But then another site said it went until the 10th. And this was to remove Damdami Taksal, Jarnel Sain Bindrawal, and their followers from the buildings of the Golden Temple. This action was interpreted as an assault on the Sikh religion, and in addition to her declaration of a nationwide emergency resulting in a ban on the press and media, resulted in her own bodyguards assassinating her.
It's hard for me to understand just because I'm so outside the culture and the politics, but my understanding is basically she started cracking down to maintain order, and there was a violent situation at a temple, and she used force to regain control, which ended up killing hundreds of Sikhs, right? And the assassination was kind of revenge. And there were two of her most trusted bodyguards that assassinated her. But my thought is, in the U.S., we technically had Waco, right? Where the U.S. stormed a religious facility that was stockpiling arms. And there was a lot of criticism of how it was handled. And then we had the Oklahoma City bombing, which was supposedly retaliation for how the U.S. handled Waco. And so, as far removed as I am from this assassination, I'm like, we have issues in the U.S. too, and maybe we process them or understand them, but definitely some complex and interesting history. And it does seem like she did a lot of great things for India. And, I can't begin to speculate about the end of her career and life. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it seems like she accomplished a lot. She did a lot of good things. And then she, in a moment where she had to rule with like really extreme authority, there was just a lot of backlash.
Yeah. But Raj wants to be like her, but in astrophysics. I don't know if that means he wants to revolutionize it, if he wants to make the astrophysics self-sufficient, or...
I think he just wanted to become like her, as she has a reputation and a legacy of the greatest in her field. He wants to be the greatest in his field.
But with a penis.
Of course,
with a penis, because he has one of those already.
Yep.
Not because it makes him better, just because he already has it. Yep. And around then, the guys say we should let him know he's talking to Penny, and they're like, nah, let him figure out. And then he says to Penny, how am I ever going to do this? I can't even talk to girls. And she goes, well, you're talking to me right now. And that's when the plan gets concocted. If he has a grasshopper at dinner, he'll be able to talk to Lolita.
Yep, it's a sweet green miracle.
I love his line, like, why can't I do this all the time? Why, is it happiness?
Because that's what alcohol gives us.
Yeah, it's magic. I can't even read my notes. What am I trying to say here? Okay, so Penny says you should not overdo it when you come to the cheese, or you should not overdo it. So come to the Cheesecake Factory, and I'll keep an eye on you, right? To make sure that you're not going overboard, which I don't understand, because they basically just watch him like crash and burn through the day anyways.
They failed miserably as friends.
They're all...
And as a bartender. You gotta cut that. As a bartender, you need to know when to cut people off.
And that's over, like, one sip for Raj, right? But he kept drinking. And I do like how, as offensive as Howard can be, he keeps making these little snippets where, Penny's like, well, they say Raj can't be drunk for life through marriage, and Howard goes, worked for my parents.
Sad.
And I'm like, you know what, Howard, you have some depth. You're offensive, but you have some depth.
Yeah, we're starting to pull back the onion.
Yeah.
All the layers.
He's got the layers. And so now we go to the date, and Raj is already drunk, and he mentions the dentist and suicide rates, which goes into the next IQ point.
Yep, I looked into that as well.
You did?
I'll let you take it.
All right, I'll see what I got. According to a review by L.M. Jones, the notion that dentists are higher suicide rates than other professions has been largely debated and may be historically correct, but not currently. And so there's some debate, and the argument behind this review was that technically right now, it's not really as big of an issue as it used to be, but some thoughts were that the job was so stressful, that there was substance abuse, that there were untreated mental health issues, and possibly even exposure to certain toxins within the profession made them more suicidal. But according to this review, with current help, intervention, understanding, and programs, there are support frames for suicidal individuals, which makes dentists not as suicidal as they might have been in the past. However, for ATCs, air traffic controllers, there is still this ongoing notion that they are very suicidal. And I couldn't find a lot to substantiate this, although there is a lot of information to suggest the job is extremely stressful. That I think one quote said that it's like coming in to play multiple games of chess for the entirety of your shift, trying to plot out who's where, when, how far they are away from each other, wind conditions, weather conditions, and how many lives are on your shoulders, which is probably why Forbes says only 1% of ATC air traffic control applicants actually make it to their job. That 99% don't make the cut. So there is some truth there that it's a stressful job, but I couldn't find anything to substantiate they kill themselves more than others.
Yeah, it was the same thing with me too, where maybe back in 2007 or earlier than that, because in the research that I did, there was a lot of support to say that it is one of the or it is or was one of the most stressful jobs in the world. And it's like what you said, every day it's like they're playing multiple games of chess, and if they mess up, there are thousands of lives on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with doctors, they may have like one or two problematic people that cause stress. If something goes wrong as an air traffic controller, it's like that thousands of lives on every plane. And the articles that I did find that say it's possible that this was number one in the past in terms of suicide rates because of how stressful it was. But these days, with the better technology, it's actually become a lot better. Like the stress is actually becoming a lot lower because a lot of it is becoming automated. That the hardest part about the job now is just the shifts, because it's 24/7. Like you could have a 3 a.m. shift and you need to be just as alert.
Yeah, you can't be tired, or again, thousands of lives are on end. In the article I read, it brought up a movie that I watched years ago, a 1999 film with John Cusack and Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie and Kate Blanchett, like a lot of people. And I don't remember this completely, but it's about their air traffic controllers, and the stress gets too much of them. And I believe and don't try this at home, folks, to alleviate that stress, they go out and stand behind a jet engine and get blown away. And the impact of getting hit by that jet engine, the exhaust from it, alleviates their stress. That's what I remember from the film. I need to watch it again, but I remember the images from the film of them like flying away as the exhaust from the engines blow them. So yeah, that's a really good film about ATCs and the stress of their jobs, if you're interested.
What was the movie called again?
Pushing 10. Again, some big
Any more
names.
research on this? Well, I dove into, not to make this a sad episode again. But,
Rob, what are you doing?
This grasshopper is making me so sad. Okay, so the rates suicide rates based off career. So this is on cdc.gov, and this is stats based on a 2017 study, but the article is written in 2020. So the rates are the highest in 5 major industry groups. So number 1, mining, quarrying, and oil and gas extraction. Number 2, construction. Number 3, other services for like automotive repair, for example. Number 4, agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. And number 5, transportation and warehousing. So those apparently were the top 5.
Interesting. And this comes down to mental health, and if these careers offer mental health assistance, I wonder how that impacts it.
I wonder if like that's why I was thinking that too. I was wondering why doctors and dentists weren't on there anymore, and it's because they're in the medical field, so they probably have easier access to a lot of these things that could help them out.
A stronger understanding of how to deal with it.
Yeah. Whereas like a lot of these other ones, they could be careers where they see mental health as not something that's needed as much. Like, why would I go see therapy? I don't need a therapist. Therapies are for wackos. I'm not a wacko.
The stereotyping that some of those professions seem kind of masculine, construction, warehouse workers, that
hunting, transportation, warehouse, mining, quarrying.
Yeah, those definitely masculine stereotypes, characterizations, that there is this toxic masculinity, at least in the United States, if not worldwide, that mental health is not a manly thing to do. If you can't control your mental health, you're not a real man, right? That we can deal with it, that no matter how bad it gets, and that's, scientifically not true, that things can get bad enough that you should get help however you can. So I'm curious how that plays into it, these stereotypes and gender understandings and studies.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and I'm glad that there's a big push these days for mental health, because people work out all the time, they take care of their bodies, why wouldn't they take care of their brain?
Yeah.
So, since we're discussing suicide, we've talked about it a handful of times. I just wanted to throw it out there that if you are depressed or have thoughts of suicide, or if you know someone that has thoughts of suicide, there is a suicide hotline. So, at any point, dial 988 on your phone. That, again, is 988. And even if you're not the one that's in trouble, if somebody else is in trouble and you need advice or anything like that, just call that hotline.
And, I think it's better to be safer than sorry with any of that. I hear horror stories of people seeing posts on social media, Facebook or Twitter, and not taking action because they're like, oh, it's a joke or it's not a big deal. And later wishing they would have taken that step to say, hey, I'm calling this number, I'm worried about somebody.
Yeah, and this is one of those situations where it's better to be overly worried than under.
Absolutely.
All right, back on a happier note.
We are... Where are we? I don't know.
Okay. Raj is on his date, and I wanted to give a little shout out to the actress. Where was it? Lolita is played by Sarah Yu Blue. And she has a long resume of acting stuff. I don't know if you've seen her in anything, but after this, I know her from the To All the Boys movie series on Netflix, because my wife likes those. She plays like she plays the mom, like the friend's mom or something like that.
Oh, I've seen the show. I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a series of movies on Netflix. To All the Boys.
Oh, it's movies. Yeah. It's not even like a show.
Yeah, there's like 3 movies now, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, it's I think the first one is To All the Boys That I've Loved, where the main character, she was like writing letters as like a child to all the boys that she loved, but she never sent them.
Yeah.
But then she finds them and decides to tell all the boys, at some point in my life, I was in love with you. and then stuff happens, you know?
Of course it does.
Yeah, it's a Netflix teeny bopper movie. My wife loves that stuff, so I end up watching it too.
Hey, I watched some of them. Kissing Booth 1, 2, and 3. I enjoyed them. There's nothing wrong with that.
And then she was in, I remember her from Blockers with John Cena.
I never saw
that. Was the one. That was actually really funny. It was when the kids have a sex pact, like before they graduate high school, they all want to lose their virginity.
Yeah.
And then the parents find out about their pact, and they're trying to stop them.
I know. That might be on my watch list for tonight. Man, we have like a movie night list for this episode. Wow.
Yeah. So that's Lolita.
And I like it as they're watching Raj crash and burn. Leonard says, "Don't you have a drink to make him less obnoxious?" And Penny says, "Drinks do not work that way." Right?
And I did a little bit of research on this. Sounds like you did too.
No, I just quoted that. Oh, so yeah, this is all you now.
So this is actually a great IQ point. So I did a little bit of research on, do certain drinks have different effect on others? Because I thought the answer was yes. Because I drink beer to have a good time. Whenever I have whiskey, I'm usually a little bit more melancholy. Whenever I have gin, it just kind of just relaxes me. Whenever I have wine, I feel different.
I have a grasshopper, I start talking about suicide.
Well, according to businessinsider.com, science says that this is false. That if you actually do say tequila makes me crazy, wine makes me cry, that's not true at all.
It's not true.
According to science. So there was a study where patients were given either bourbon or vodka while living at an inpatient lab for 9 days. Researchers noticed an increase in hostility, anxiety, and depression across the board, yet no discernible difference between the bourbon and the vodka. So, psychology is at play. So, if you're the type of person that tequila makes me crazy, that means chances are if you're going to have tequila, you have an intention of getting crazy on some level. So, if you want to go crazy, you're out partying, you might choose tequila. You might go for shots, even.
It's the drink that suits your mood.
And when you have shots and you're at a club, you might have 3 within the hour, and that might make anybody go crazy. And also, certain boozes might trigger certain memories that affect your mood.
Oh.
So that might be what's happening too. I had my first, if you get melancholy about beer, because I had my first beer with my dad, and then my father passed away, or something like that. So now every time I drink a beer, I think of my dad, and it makes me sad. It's things like that. So it's more psychology is at play.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to look into that study a little bit more, because it kind of sounds like they tricked all these people into coming in their study and then only gave them vodka and whiskey for 9 days. Could we?
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't spread it out with beer and wine and.
We would like some water. Shut up and drink your vodka.
I'm the doctor, and you will listen to what I say.
I'm feeling slightly depressed. I haven't had water in 8 days. So interesting. It doesn't impact you any differently. It's just psychology.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. So, Sheldon finally joins the club and, of course, orders his Virgin Cuba Libre. And,
Diet Cuba Libre.
Diet Cuba Libre, yeah. He turns around and notices Lita looks like Princess Panchali from a child's book his mom used to read him.
Yep.
And he really goes into this. I got 2 things for this. A partial IQ point. From what I could find, the book is not real. However, there is a painting from 1913 called The Princess and a Monkey.
Oh, I didn't find that part.
Yeah, so, I don't know if it has anything to do with it. but there is a painting out there, and maybe it was the basis for the story for this episode. But what we do get here, though, is another point for Sheldon, and that's because Sheldon was given this book by his mom, a book that talks about him being different, and that he's like the monkeys that people don't understand. And I wasn't given Princess Poncelli as a kid. I was given Leo the Late Bloomer.
Were you really?
I was. Aww. It was a book, and until that moment, I didn't realize I was different than other kids. But when they gave me this book about this, I don't know what it was, tiger or something, that was not appreciated by other people because he was a late bloomer, I look at this book and I go, what the hell? Like, why are you giving this to me? And suddenly it clicked. I was not as cool as I thought I was.
That reminds me of a book that I wasn't given this as a child, but it was something that we read in elementary school, The Ugly Duckling. It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, I think it was on the same premise. This was
they were different, they didn't fit in, but eventually they blossomed into a beautiful swan.
Yeah. No, they took me into a back room and gave me this book. In preschool. I remember the room. And they might have
Ryan, you need this book.
This is for you. They wrote it for you. Man, it changed my life. It's going to change yours too, Ryan.
Your parents actually wrote it and printed it at Kinko's.
This paper feels funny. It's not a real book.
Why is it just pages stapled together?
In fact, this looks like spaghetti that we had last night spilled on it. What the hell?
Is that a grasshopper stain?
That's a grasshopper stain. Mom, Dad, give me your grasshoppers. I need to deal with this. And that was the first day I had a grasshopper. So, Raj finally introduces Sheldon, and Sheldon starts reenacting the story, saying he's just the humble monkey, and he excuses himself, and starts to flatter Lolita. Raj gets threatened and says, "Stop hitting on my girl, or you will, what does he say, unleash my wrath?"
I don't remember. Something like that.
And they go through a whole thing where Sheldon says, "I'm not hitting on her." She says, "I'm not your girl." And Howard says, "And you have no wrath."
Yep. Raj gets very jealous.
Yes. He didn't even want her before the date, but man, the grasshopper brings out.
Well, apparently she's a hottie now, and she lost a ton of weight because he wouldn't shut up about how much weight she lost and how fat she used to be.
You used to be so fat. Do you remember that? Well, now that you mention it.
I do now. Really quick, before I move on, I forgot the context of this, but I wrote it down in my notes. Howard hired a Disney Snow White to come to his house, and apparently they got mad at him because he didn't have a kid. Another thing to chalk up to like Howard's creepiness. Like, bro,
that you can order Snow White to come to your house, but they prefer you have a child.
Yeah. And then he also mentioned earlier in the episode, I think we jumped over it, when they were Skyping with Raj's parents. He's like, "Is it weird that we're webcamming with our clothes on?"
Oh, he did mention that.
A couple creep points for Howard on that. I was like, oh my god, Howard. Why are you so open about this? I wouldn't tell my friends any of this.
It's because his parents drank through their whole marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
Worked for my parents. And then the scene ends with Sheldon leaving with Lolita. And it comes up to an after the date apartment scene. And Raj is talking to his parents again, complaining and being mournful about the situation. That's what my notes say. That they tell Leonard, or they call Leonard Sheldon, right? They mistake their names. And he goes, "No, I'm Leonard." And they go, "Oh, sorry, you all look the same to us." And I thought this was a great flipping the shoe for racist statements. Oh, you all look the same. And
I hear that a lot with Asians.
Right? And it reminded me of when I lived in Japan that I was always called Harry Potter, mostly because I had glasses and dark hair. And I looked very little like Daniel Radcliffe, but dark hair and glasses, everybody, I mean, I'd be walking down the street and I'd look at it and be like, Mom, it's Harry Potter. It just happened. But I remember with my partner at the time, my ex, we were at a place called Monkey Mountain. And there was a pamphlet or something that had a bit, and we were translating it. And I'm paraphrasing because it's been so many years. But I remember it saying, talking to visitors, if you notice the monkeys' faces all look very similar, it's much like white people.
Really?
Yeah, and we're like, wait, white people all look the same. I'm like, that makes a sense. That there's probably some studies out there, and I didn't do research on this, I didn't find anything, but, when you're not accustomed to a certain look, you're not able to process the small details. That if it's a wardrobe choice, a sweater choice, a music choice, you're not going to be able to appreciate and respect the nuances. And that was my takeaway from it. That it wasn't necessarily meant, when I was reading it, it was like a kid's place to pet monkeys. I didn't take it as something that they hated Caucasians or Americans. It was more just, trying to talk to little kids and understanding that they're not used to those discrepancies, those changes between monkey faces, even though each monkey is very different. And for somebody who is living with those monkeys daily, they probably could tell each monkey apart from each other.
Yeah, probably after a while.
I later learned that... Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, once you, if you don't know the people... not to be racist or anything, but that sometimes they all do look the same.
Yeah, it's I think there's...
Sorry, everyone. That's the grasshopper.
That's the grasshopper. Damn you, grasshopper! I think that it could be taken or stated racist, but I think there is something psychological there that we... if I try... I think music is a great example. Art, too, that if I try to play rock and roll by two rock bands by somebody who only listens to classical, they may not know the difference between guitar riffs, right? Between a alt-rock country and a alt-rock folk rhythm. I don't know. So I don't think it's necessarily meant harshly, but, assuming they're all the same, that's where the problem comes up. I was going to say is that I learned years later that the bridge I had to walk across to get to Monkey Mountain is cursed. And I can't remember what the curse was, but apparently it had something to do with lovers and you lose romance or something. But it was funny because a decade later, somebody wrote a paper on this cursed bridge. I'm like, I've been there.
And you're currently cursed now.
I'm still cursed to this day. Which is why I drink grasshoppers.
Yeah. It nullifies the curse.
Exactly. It can't curse me. I've got a grasshopper. So Sheldon enters, and Raj blames him for never having kids. And Sheldon says, how am I to blame? I don't know anything about your sperm count. And his parents mention or ask, are you wearing the boxers we sent you? And this came into a little dive for me. Did you do anything on this?
I did.
What'd you get? I want to hear what you got.
The quote was, you know what happens to your samosas when you wear tidy whities. So then the IQ point is, are boxers better than briefs for sperm counts? According to webmd.com, yes, it's true. boxers are better than briefs when you want a higher sperm counts. So that's all because of the breeze. So for optimal sperm production, the temperature of the testes must be lower than the core body temperature. That's why testicles are external. Testes can overheat when a man wears brief underwear. It takes 10 to 11 weeks for sperm to be produced. So plan accordingly if you and your partner are trying to have a baby. So
Air
try
them
not
out
to
for
wear
a couple weeks.
Yeah, let it breathe. And try not to wear tight pants either, because even if you wear boxer shorts, if you're wearing tight pants, it will still hug onto you, and then it'll warm up your nether regions, thus lowering your sperm count. So also avoid saunas and hot tubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you're trying out there, that's what you need to do to get a higher sperm count.
Let them hang.
Yep.
And, I read a study. Before I said anything about this, I wanted to hear what you said just to make sure I understood it. But according to a study at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, they again recorded that boxers are better for higher motile sperm, good effective sperm, and that they found a difference in hormones. That guys who wore tidy whities had higher FSH, if I can pronounce this correctly, follicle stimulating hormone, basically a hormone that is produced to help produce more sperm. And apparently those who wear tidy whities, their brain comprehends that something's wrong and produces more of this hormone to try to make up for the inadequacy in sperm production. And so those wearing boxers actually have less of this hormone because they're doing things al natural, right? And I thought that was interesting. And it went on to say that there might be other environmental factors that seem random, but could be stressors on sperm count and sperm motility and effectiveness.
So do you think you could trick your body by wearing boxers and briefs every other day? When you put the briefs on, all of a sudden it tricks your body to produce more, and then you switch over to boxers, and then it regulates it and produces more. You think your body's that smart?
That's where you're going with it. I'm going with, if I throw a couple ice cubes down my pants, will that be enough to keep my samosas cold?
Yeah.
I need to ice them down. Yeah. I'm going to have a baby. So, there's this discussion of boxers and briefs, whitey tidies. And Leonard points out that friends don't leave with girls from friends, right? Sheldon didn't feel like he did anything wrong, and he's like, you left with your friend's girl. And it clicks, and Sheldon, apologizes pretty instantly. Oh, I'm sorry. And
he didn't know the social protocol.
Yeah, he didn't get it. He didn't realize he was hitting on her. I don't think he understood what was going on. He was just really amazed. This is a fairy tale character, and she's right here. Wow. Raj is still kind of mad. Leonard says, take the apology. It's more than I ever get. I think that's pretty big, that Sheldon can apologize. It's just, it takes a lot to make him understand, get him to understand the implications. And then Sheldon explains nothing happened. She talked about, dental health, right?
Yep.
Gum disease. And Sheldon asks, are you going to see her again? And he's like, why would I see her again? I have a dentist.
Leonard asks.
Oh, Leonard does. Man, I'm getting them confused too.
It's the Grasshopper.
Not Grasshopper.
But I love that face that he makes of so perplexed. Why would I see her again? I have a dentist.
I already have a dentist. Yep. So for him, it was not romantic at all. Even though it sounded romantic, it was not anything. And then we get to the ending credits, and they're back at the Cheesecake Factory, and Fiddler on the Roof comes back up. Sheldon is playing the piano and singing.
Yep, he's drunk because Penny spiked his drink.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about this because it's funny, but also spiking somebody's drink is an ethical issue that I don't know how I feel about it, but
yeah. But I will tell you, this isn't a spoiler, but this is not the last time you'll see drunk Sheldon.
And at the same time, maybe he deserves it because he's not always the nicest person, so...
They need to chill him out.
Chill him out.
In a while.
Air out his samosas. And that's the end of the Grasshopper.
We did it. The Grasshopper experiment. I kept calling it the Grasshopper effect. Grasshopper experiment. So. Whoops.
Whoopsie daisies. So what were your thoughts on it? Did you like it?
I loved this episode just because it advanced such a huge plot point. Like, this was a major thing that happens to the group, that Raj can talk to women as long as he's having alcohol.
Yeah.
So, like, that's one thing that I really liked about this one. And it's about alcohol, and we all love alcohol because it makes you happy.
That's true. We all love it. And I liked Sheldon apologizing for something and Howard opening up about his parents a little bit. It's in humorous ways, but I thought it, I'm going to keep it in mind because they are not just... Howard's not just a sexual deviant or a bad person, that he has a background. And also, as offensive as it was, he was trying to help Raj out with the phone call. So there's that.
Yeah. I will say this, like, it's really hard to watch Howard in the beginning seasons, but his arc is actually one of my favorites of the show. Nice. And like, he is an onion, and there are layers to him.
And they're coming out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's blossoming onion.
All right. Not to rush this, but I have 9% battery.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah.
We'll quickly tally up your Sheldon points. So where are we at?
I was going to say, too, really quickly, that I liked Penny doing something that wasn't entirely noble with the alcohol experiment, because she's always complaining about Howard being too raunchy and Sheldon not being social, and well, she's spiking their drinks, so she's not great.
She's not better than them.
Yeah. All right, so we went up 2 on both sides. We are at 6-10.
Whoa.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. We are at... Oh, I screwed this all up. Damn you, Grasshopper. I believe we are at 8-10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
In
7,
favor
8.
of Sheldon?
Yep, 8-10 in favor of Sheldon. I am Sheldon by 2 points.
Nice.
It's happening.
They call him Shelly. We'll call you Rai.
Oh, no.
All right, anything else to add?
I think that's all I got for this episode.
All right. That's all I have, too. Overall, you enjoyed the episode?
I did, and I enjoyed this experiment. I look forward to more, maybe not Grasshopper experiments, but experiments. And I'm going to end with saying that a Grasshopper is going to make a great holiday beverage.
Yes, it will. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Please remember to leave us a review on Apple, because then we can actually read your review. We'll read 5-star reviews, not to entice you to give us 5 stars only, but that would be nice. It'll help the podcast algorithm and help us grow and expand. We're also on Spotify and Stitcher. Follow us on Instagram at theoreticalnonsensepod. Please email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And all these are in the show notes now.
Woohoo! And I promise I will be looking for the emails better now.
Well, we'll see you all next time when we talk about Season 1, Episode 9, the Cooper-Hofstadter Polarization.
Oh, yeah. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along. No PhD necessary. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening.